Do you remember when the morning belonged to you? When you woke not to a buzzing little machine on the nightstand, but to the soft gray light easing through the curtains, to the sound of birds outside the window, to the quiet of a house that had not yet begun to hurry? There was a gentleness to those mornings. The day did not seize you the moment your eyes opened. It waited. It let you sit on the edge of the bed for a moment, feeling your feet find the floor, before it asked anything of you at all. And though we never thought about it then, those slow and ordinary mornings were doing something for us. They were setting the tone of the whole day. They were quietly tending to our bodies and our minds in ways we are only now beginning to understand. I have lived a long time. I have watched the morning change more than almost any other part of the day.
And I want to sit with you a while and remember how we used to begin, and to show you, gently, the small habits we have let slip away, and how you might bring them home again. Because here is something I have come to believe with all my heart. How you begin your morning is how you begin your life, one day at a time. And many of the old ways of beginning were wiser than we ever gave them credit for. Let me take you back.
In those years, the morning began with the light, not against it. We did not need a shrieking alarm to tear us from our sleep because we went to bed when the night grew dark and we woke when the day grew light, more or less, the way people had done for thousands of years before us. The body had a rhythm, and that rhythm was set by the sun. And here's something very few people realize, though science has now shown it clearly. There is a kind of clock inside each of us, an old and faithful clock, and it is set each day by the light that reaches our eyes in the morning. When the morning light falls upon us early in the day, that clock is wound correctly. It tells the body when to feel awake, when to feel alert, and many hours later, when to feel sleepy again at night. In the old days, we caught that morning light without trying. We rose near the dawn. We threw open the curtains. We stepped outside onto the porch or into the yard to feel the cool air and see what kind of day it would be. The light reached us, and our inner clock was wound, and the whole day fell into its proper order, including that very night, an easier sleep. But the morning has changed. Now, so many of us wake in dim rooms, with the curtains still drawn, and the first light our eyes meet is not the sun at all. It is the cold glow of a screen held inches from the face. The body's old clock grows confused. It does not know the day has begun, and the trouble that starts in the morning quietly follows us all the way to a restless night. We did not understand any of this in the old days. We simply rose with the light and stepped into the morning, and the body thanked us for it without our ever knowing. Now, let me tell you about the first thing we did when we woke, and the first thing we did not do. We did not reach for the news. Think of it. In those years, when you opened your eyes, the troubles of the whole world were not waiting on your nightstand. There was no flood of alarming headlines, no pile of messages, no stream of strangers' worries pouring into your mind before your feet had even touched the floor. The morning was quiet. The morning was yours. The newspaper came later, folded on the table, and you read it at your own pace with a cup of coffee in your hand. The radio might murmur softly in the background, but the day arrived gently, in its own time, and not all at once like a wave breaking over your head. And this matters more than we ever imagined. You see, The first moments after waking are a tender time for the mind. The body is still rising out of sleep, soft and unguarded. When we flood those first moments with worry and noise and the troubles of the world, the body answers the only way it knows how. It tenses, it braces, it floods itself with the quiet chemistry of stress before the day has even truly begun. We start the morning already wound tight, already alarmed, and we carry that tightness with us for hours without knowing where it came from. The old morning protected us from that. It gave the mind a soft place to land. There was a stretch of quiet, making the coffee, looking out the window, sitting in the early stillness, before the world was allowed to come rushing in. I have watched so many people wake straight into their worries, and I have seen what it does to them. And I want to tell you something kind. The morning does not owe the world its first hour. That first hour can belong to you, the way it once did to all of us. Stay with me, because here is where the old mornings grow even wiser. We moved our bodies gently, first thing, not exercise as we mean it now, nothing strenuous, but the old morning had motion built into it. You rose and you stretched, perhaps without thinking, reaching your arms toward the ceiling as the stiffness of the night loosened. You made the bed, smoothing the sheets and plumping the pillows. You moved about the kitchen. You stepped outside to fetch something, to check the garden, to greet the day. And this gentle morning motion did something important, especially as we grow older. You may have noticed that the body is stiffest in the morning. The joints feel tight. The back feels reluctant. And it takes a little while to feel like yourself again. That is natural, and it grows more noticeable with the years. But the old mornings answered it perfectly. All that small, unhurried movement, the stretching, the bed-making, the walking about, eased the stiffness away gently, warming the body into the day the way you might warm an old engine before a long drive. Now, think of how many of us begin the morning instead. We wake and we sit. We sit with the screen, we sit with the coffee, we sit, and the stiffness has no chance to ease. And by the time we finally rise, the body has grown even more reluctant than before. The old morning never let us sit so long. It got us up and moving gently, almost at once. And the body, especially the aging body, loves to be coaxed awake with motion, rather than left to stiffen in a chair. And then, there was the breakfast. Let me paint it for you. The kitchen warming as the stove came alive. The smell of coffee, perhaps eggs or oatmeal on the back burner or bread toasting. Real food made by hand in a kitchen that smelled of morning. And the table set where the family would gather before the day scattered them in every direction. We sat down to eat. That is the part I want you to remember. We sat down. The breakfast was not eaten standing at the counter, not gulped in the car, not skipped entirely in the rush. It was a small ceremony. You sat, you ate, you spoke a few words with whoever was there, and you let the food and the morning settle into you before the day pulled you away. The food itself was simple and real, not pulled from a brightly colored package, not sweet and soft, built in a factory, but cooked from things you could name. And because the morning was unhurried, you ate slowly, and your body had time to feel itself nourished and ready. Now, I will not tell you any grand tales about breakfast that the science does not support. I will only tell you what I have seen with my own eyes over a long life. The people who began the day with a calm, real meal, eaten sitting down among others, seem to carry a steadiness into their morning that the rush and the skipping never had. There is a peace in that small ceremony. The body is fed, the mind is calmed, and the day begins on solid ground. And if you lived alone, as so many of us come to, well, the table still mattered. To sit and eat a proper breakfast with the radio on and the window open is to tell yourself that you are worth the trouble of a real morning. And you are. You always were. There is one more thing the old mornings held, and it is the one I treasure most. It is the quiet moment. Before the day truly began, there was often a small still point. For some, it was prayer. For some, it was sitting on the porch with a cup of coffee, watching the light come up over the rooftops. For some, it was simply a few minutes at the kitchen window, looking out at nothing in particular, letting the mind gather itself. We did not call it anything. We did not call it meditation or mindfulness or self-care. We had no fine words for it at all. But that quiet morning moment was doing for the mind exactly what the stretching did for the body. It loosened the tightness. It eased us into the day. It gave the heart a moment to be at peace before the world asked anything of it. And there is a deep wisdom in beginning the day with stillness rather than with noise. When the first thing we feel each morning is calm, the calm tends to stay with us, at least a little, through the hours that follow. When the first thing we feel is alarm, that too tends to stay. The old morning gave us the calm. It built a small island of quiet at the start of every day, and we have, so many of us, let that island wash away, filled it with screens and schedules and the rushing roar of the modern morning. But the quiet is still there, waiting. It costs nothing. It asks only that we make a little room for it again. Now, I must be honest with you, because honesty is part of any wisdom worth keeping. The old days were not perfect, and I would not have you believe they were. There were hardships in those mornings, and worries and burdens I would not wish back on anyone. The past was not a paradise. No time ever is. So I am not asking you to long for a world that is gone. I am asking something gentler than that. I am asking you to look back at those mornings the way you might hold an old photograph to the light, not to climb inside it, but to find what was good and true in it, and to carry that good thing forward into the mornings you have now. Because the beautiful thing, the hopeful thing, is this. Nearly everything that made the old morning healthier is still within your reach. It was never about the year on the calendar. It was about the habits. And a habit, unlike a year, can always come home again. So, let me give you, gently, the old morning habits worth bringing back, not as rules to burden you, but as small kindnesses to offer yourself one at a time. The first is to meet the morning light. When you wake, open the curtains. Better still, step outside, even for a minute or two, onto the porch, into the yard, by an open door, and let the early light reach your eyes and the cool air touch your face. This small thing winds the body's old clock, lifts the spirit, and quietly helps you sleep more soundly that very night. There is hardly a simpler gift you can give yourself. The second is to guard the first quiet hour. Let the screen wait. Let the news wait. The world's troubles will still be there in an hour, and they will be easier to face once your mind has gently woken. Give those first soft moments to yourself, to coffee, to the window, to the morning, before you let the world come rushing in. The third is to move gently soon. Do not sit and stiffen. Stretch your arms and back as you rise. Make your bed. Move about the kitchen. Take a few slow steps outside. Coax the body awake with gentle motion, the way the old morning always did, and the stiffness of the years will ease far more kindly than if you let it settle in a chair. The fourth is to sit down to a real breakfast. You need not cook a feast, but choose food you can name over food from a package. Eat it sitting down rather than rushing, and if you can, eat it with someone. Or, if you live alone, eat it as a small ceremony for yourself. With the radio on and the window open, you are worth a real morning. And the fifth, the one I hold most dear, is to keep a quiet moment. Before the day takes you, sit still for a few minutes. Pray, if that is your way, or simply watch the light come up and breathe and let your heart settle. Begin the day in peace, and a little of that peace will follow you into all the hours that come after.
I have lived long enough to watch the morning change beyond recognition. The light gave way to the screen. The quiet gave way to the news. The gentle stretching gave way to the long sit. The breakfast at the table gave way to the rush and the package. The still moment gave way to noise. Each change crept in so quietly that we never grieved what we lost. We hardly noticed it was leaving. But I have also lived long enough to know that what is lost slowly can be found slowly. You need not remake every morning all at once. Begin with one small thing tomorrow. Open the curtains. Step into the light. Leave the screen on the table a while longer. Then another the day after. Gently, the way mornings themselves arrive, without hurry and without alarm. Growing older is not something to be braced against in the gray light of dawn. It is a season to be met each morning with dignity, with care, and with a little of the old wisdom we carried all along and only thought we had forgotten.
The world changed quickly, but the morning still remembers how it used to begin, and so, I hope, do you. If these words have warmed something in you this morning, if they have stirred a memory of an old kitchen, a quiet porch, a softer way of starting the day, then stay with me a while longer. Subscribe and rise with me again, and let us keep remembering together, gently, in the mornings to come. This is Methuselah Wisdom, where old memories still teach new lessons, and growing older is met with understanding, dignity, and grace.